Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to Sourced, the Masterclass. Becca Campbell here. You can call me B. If we happen to be connecting for the first time, make sure you let me know. Comment below wherever you're watching this, or make sure in that Telegram chat that's linked to the 21-day challenge that's associated with this masterclass that you let me know that we're new to each other, because that's obviously super exciting. Those that have signed up for this so far, I do know you all, and I'm equally grateful and excited that you're here and really celebrating you for following the call to step into this space. This is a transmission, okay? This is not even necessarily a class. It is a teaching, but more than anything, it's an activation into remembering the true source of your power and how that is designed to be sourced, meant to be sourced from within. And we're going to talk today about how we get to plug into that, how it impacts our ability to channel our own intuitive guidance, to self-heal, to step into our soul purpose, and all of that good stuff that I know I love to talk about and I love to support people with, but also that I feel like so many more are just desiring to connect with and embody right now, and with good reason, which we'll also get into. But first of all, just to introduce myself, I am an intuitive coach, guide, and healer. I specialize in activating people into their intuitive gifts, into their natural healing abilities, and into their soul purpose, all of the things that I just mentioned. So if any of that is your jam, you're definitely going to want to stick around and hang out with me. You're definitely going to want to jump into that 21-day challenge. That's where we embody what we're going to talk about today, folks. That's where we integrate the information, the transmission. We want to remember that we can receive all of the information in the world. We can, have all of the steps to doing XYZ, but unless we are actually implementing, doing, integrating, and knowing that implementing, doing, and integrating often means slowing down, often means reflection and going inward, which if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, we're moving into winter. 'Tis the season for all of that. We do have to know that there is a certain amount of personal responsibility that comes along with this if we actually want to make use of the information in a positive and productive way. So that's why, as opposed to just delivering this through a masterclass, I am opening this 21-day activation space. No matter when you view this, that space will be available in some capacity. Those 21 days will be available in some capacity. So wherever you're watching this, you can find the link to where that is below. If you happen to be watching this in December 2025, today is December 1st. We're kicking off the space with this masterclass, with this transmission. So you will have already received, if you said yes to the invitation to be in this space, you will already have received a link to that Telegram group. If you're having trouble with the link, please reach out to me personally, because I know that I have struggled with Telegram links in the past, and it can be a bit of like I don't know, we might call it a block, but it can be a bit of a barrier sometimes when we either don't want to ask for help or we just get overwhelmed by technology and life. Make sure you reach out to me if you're struggling with it so I can help you in, because that's where the true magic's going to happen. Today is magic. Today is really going to be a place for you to, again, just like sit back, receive, and I invite you to get comfortable. I invite you to get a cup of your favorite comforting beverage, or just allow yourself to really settle in, to just let this land in whatever way you're ready to receive it. And to know that so much about what we're going to talk about here really has to do with receiving. Okay? When we're talking about being sourced, AKA resourced, in the way that we're going to talk about today, we want to be very clear that this is natural. It's not like we have to really try that hard. What we have to do, or we're being invited to do, we don't have to do anything. But if we do really want to open up to receive in the way that we are going to talk about in terms of receiving that support and being resourced in the way, through the unseen realm, through our energy, through our spiritual connection, that's what we're talking about today. We need to know the ways that we get in our own way, the ways that we block that. And so we're going to get into that pretty early in this conversation so that we have an awareness, right? We have an awareness not to dwell on that awareness, not to get tangled up in the story of like, oh, I'm all of this and I've experienced all of that. And therefore, I'm not able to receive in the way that I would maybe really like to. And so, oh, well, oh, well, that's just how I am. That was me for a really long time. I've had awareness of how I am not allowing myself to receive in all of the ways in my life for a very long time. And it took a lot of work, quite frankly, to start to untangle from all of that. What I do believe is that, yes, there's a certain amount of work that goes along with this, but that work actually gets to feel more like play and that it doesn't have to be, I want to say, as like difficult for you or take as long as it has for me to start to clear some of that clutter that is like clogging up the flow and inhibiting you from being able to receive this divine energy, this great loving force, this life force, because it is our life force energy, right? The divine in whatever capacity you connect with it to and as. Does that make sense? But it is life force. And so if we're blocking our life force, how does that compute for our health and wellness, right? We're designed to be resourced in the ways that we're going to talk about today. And so the very first thing that we even ever do in classes and with clients and whatnot is to plug in. And so I'm going to invite you now, before we even get into this, to plug in with me. Okay? If it's safe and comfortable for you to do so, I would invite you to close down the eyes, or you can just let your eye gaze soften as you connect with your breath to do that. Because guess what step one is? Your breath. Your breath is your connection to your life force. It is evidence of source flowing in and through you, enlivening you, allowing you to exist, allowing you to function. And so when we connect, as you are invited to now, to follow your inhales into your body and your exhales out, to maybe even start to, as you observe that flow, to slow it down just a little bit as you slow down and come into presence, because presence is the portal, right? And start to just acknowledge that this connection is so natural, it is automatic. Your breath is automatic. It is happening all of the time. And so we're not saying that you're not already plugged in. What we're saying is that you have the capacity to receive and hold and share so much more of this energy, this infinite love. Can you, as you connect to your breath, start to feel into that? To feel into deepening the breath, maybe? Breathe a little more fully, receive a little bit more. And with the exhales, acknowledge that there's a releasing happening, right? There's a releasing, there's a letting go. And we get to attach an intention to that, to just, say, okay, I'm letting go of anything not serving me. That works great. But also to acknowledge that we're starting to let go of anything that is inhibiting this flow, but in particular, anything in the way of programming and conditioning, because we've received a lot of that has associated receiving with this weird, like, shame. And so we're here to let go of that, right? We're here to clear. We use the word clear, but we really actually mean upcycle. Because energy is energy. It can't be created or destroyed, but it can be transformed. And it can be transformed through your breath, through your intention, and with that, through presence. So as you are connected to your breath, as you are present here right now, feeling it flowing in your body, recognize this as where spirit and matter merge within you, and in particular within your heart. And the energetic heart, as you may well know, is at the center of your chest and is also the center of the bridge that you are between heaven and earth, if you will. So feeling your connection to the earth now, be it through your feet on the floor, your hips on a seat, maybe you're laying down, just receiving this, your body on that surface. Just start to use your imagination to maybe even grow some roots or cords. Send them out of your body and wherever it's connecting to the earth and into the earth. And remember that, as you probably know if you're here, you're designed to be like anything that grows in nature, anchored into the earth energetically, to be supported by the earth, nurtured, nourished, sustained, to receive the energy of the earth up into your body. And you're also here receiving the light of the divine. And we do refer to it as the light, and we'll talk about why and how that is so universally understood and interpreted across religions, across spiritual interpretations and disciplines and whatever. The light, we get to invite more light. We're here as vessels for light. Your body being the vessel, the sacred divine vessel for the light of a great loving force. This is what you're here for. To create with that energy, to share it, to be obviously resourced by it, and to let it start to clear, dissolve, and upcycle anything that you're carrying that is not in the vibration of love. Yeah, it'll be a process. Yes, it's one that we're already engaged in, whether we like it or not, if we're on this planet right now, right? Because we know that the vibration of the planet has shifted. We know that as humans on this planet, our vibration is shifting. We are moving from the conditioning relating to fear, lack, and separation to love, abundance, and connection, unity. Connection through the heart. And so inviting you here and now as you are grounded, as you're starting to plug in and receive through your channel, see yourself through your pillar of light, friend, because that's what you're made for, to be this pillar of light, to be anchoring more light in and through your body into the earth, to be supporting the collective shift. So can you feel into your heart and what that means for you? Or even just hands on heart, feel into that vibration within you and start to recognize that you are energy, right? You are an electrical being. We want to be very clear about this part too. Your heart, you know, is electrical, can be read on electrical devices, right? To monitor it, to assess its health. The brain, same. Your cells, they have charge. Your nervous system is electrical. The fascia, the connective tissue that connects everything in your body, is an electrical system. It's not really up for debate that we are energy. And the most ancient science refers to this. And the greatest minds, scientific minds, studied this. That we are made up of these particles that are like 99% space and energy. So while we appear very solid, we are actually not, and that we are very malleable. We are very capable of change. And the more that we allow the frequency of love to inhabit our bodies, more light that we allow in, the more we shift again away from that fear towards love, away from that lack towards abundance, away from that separation and towards this beautiful connection. And this connection that we're talking about today is your unique connection, your sovereign connection to the divine. Again, you insert your word there. You decide. You just take a pause and keep breathing as long as that feels okay for you, because I'm going to get my slideshow situated here. If I can do that relatively seamlessly. And if we can start to present. There we go. Present full screen, present. So that's our little intro, I guess. Welcoming you to Sourced, the Masterclass. Again, this is the opening transmission for the 21 days of awakening, activating, and amplifying your energetic potential, your divine connection, and your intuitive power. And as we mentioned, we are here for this. We are here to help you out with plugging in, mainly by activating you into this remembrance, activating you into a space that you get to hold for yourself. Because this is really about understanding how capable we are of receiving more support via our very own selves and our cells, even as we allow them to be activated again with more light frequency. Now, of course, in order to invite more light, we know that there's going to be some shadow revealed through all of that. And so this is also about allowing ourselves to be resourced and supported in navigating shadow, in navigating the parts of ourselves that we have rejected, in navigating the parts of ourselves that we have been taught are not enough, are not acceptable, or not lovable. And so much of that programming inhibits our ability to be resourced in the way that we're designed to by the frequency of love, right? So a lot of this is really about self-love and cultivating that through, yes, a feeling, but also cultivating that through practice, through showing up for ourselves, through being authentic in how we express, through asking for and allowing ourselves to receive what we want. And those are all things that can be really challenging. But when we are plugging in the way that we're talking about today, that gets to start to naturally shift. Yes, we have to become aware of those tendencies and those patterns and programs and how we show up in the world in ways that kind of continue those on and on and on. We have to slow down enough to be present enough with ourselves to identify that and then choose a different way. But this key element of plugging in really deeply supports that. So I've got some notes here. They're kind of a little all over the place, so bear with me if I'm looking here or there. I tend to have a lot of notes and then just go off the cuff because that's just kind of how it goes. But again, this is really a transmission. It's kind of a teaching, but it is a transmission. And by transmission, I just mean that it's information that's coming through my channel. And when I talk about my channel, I am just, again, referring to the fact that we are all channels for the divine, for this type of information. And I have been receiving in this way for quite a long time now, like probably about 15 years that I've started realizing like I was getting information that was meant to be shared, but I was having a lot of resistance around sharing it because it wasn't exactly mainstream. And I had a lot of people pleasing stuff going on, and my family didn't really get it. And I just felt really alone and confused. And it was just a lot. Within that time, I also had become a mom. I'm a mom to 3 boys. I am a hockey mom. So I get, by the way, sidebar, I get crazy schedules. I get being busy. I get being on the go all the time. I get constant demands. I get it when people say to me, when I had invited them into this space, especially this time of year, I'm just too busy. I don't have time. I get that. And when the download came for me to do this, I was like, oh, this is not the time of year for me to do this. I'm too busy. It's too much. December is too much. And then, of course, that little voice come in and was like, yeah, but isn't that the time that you need this the most? Isn't that the point? And isn't that the point? Isn't that the point that being a human is very demanding, is busy, especially if we're parents or have people that we're caring for full time? It can be a lot. And there's a lot of people that are really struggling right now with the a lotness Is that even correct English? Doesn't really matter. You know what? The allotness, the overwhelm of life. And one of the reasons is because we're not allowing ourselves to be resourced in the way that we're meant to be. And we've forgotten that this isn't about massive ritual or taking hours out of our day. This is about integrating little pockets of self-care in a way that allows us to nourish, to nurture the nervous system, to regulate so that we are able to actually connect with intuitive guidance and let that influence and guide our decision making, for one. So much energy goes into decision making, doesn't it? And questioning ourselves and second guessing. What if you were plugged into your intuition in a way where it was just unshakable and you knew that you were always resourced and connected to spirit, source, God, your soul, whatever, in a way that you were able to receive that guidance, that support, that healing, because it really is how you're designed, what you're made for. So this transmission is really about activating that ability to receive through your natural connection and allowing it to be foundational in how you let yourself be resourced in this life. So it's really important, right? It's really important that we get some kind of not super duper crystal clarity at this point, but have some kind of idea around where we've been on our journey that has, again, kind of impeded our ability to be connected in this way, that has disconnected us from this great loving force that is here wanting to support us, right? So it's important that I share a bit of my journey and what I've experienced that has influenced me in this way, simply to be a mirror for you so that you might start to reflect yourself. So again, receiving is the name of the game here. That's what we're here for. And from a very young age, I was very much conditioned to believe that I was not worthy of receiving. And it started with being a very shy, quiet, awkward child who was not very well accepted by her peers in her early years. And that had to do with a few factors. One, probably my shy, quiet awkwardness. Two, probably my energy. Now that I know my energy as a manifester in human design, which is notable, and I should mention now before I forget, if you don't know human design, it has to do with your unique energetic blueprint and signature. It does relate to how you receive intuitive guidance, how you receive energy in general, how you process energy, how you create. It has to do with all of these beautiful things that are very helpful to understand through the lens of human design, if you happen to resonate with it. If you want to learn your human design, you can go online, Google human design chart. You can do them free on all kinds of websites. You do need your birth date and your birth time and your place of birth. If you don't know your birth time, there's ways of kind of getting an idea. You can always inquire with me about that as well. But I discovered quite a few years ago that my human design energy type was a manifester. And it sounds really magical, right? Ooh, manifester. But actually, manifestors are the most conditioned against their design because we're meant to be a direct channel for source. First of all, we have a very direct connection to source. We're actually supposed to only really respond to source and take direction from it. And we're meant to receive that information, that guidance, and act on it because we're here to be initiators. We're here to bring forward new thought, new ideas, new ways of being and doing things, and just basically lead. And that has been something that has been an incredibly challenging journey because there was so much that I just wanted to like hide in the shadows around. There was so much in terms of my conditioning and my experience that had taught me it's much, much safer to just like kind of go with the flow of the crowd and make sure everybody else around me is comfortable. When in fact, I'm here to like disrupt and make people uncomfortable so that they'll move, right? So my energy is very activating. I'm here to channel source through my voice. I am here to step into the light as we all are, but I am here to go first. And so that hasn't been the easiest because I learned very early on when I was like early years of grade school that people just didn't like me for being me, it seemed. People judged me because my dad was a doctor in a small town and we were from away when everyone else was like really connected and a lot of people were like related. And I was the wrong religion for my school. It was Christianity, but I was the wrong type of Christianity. So the parents didn't like me, and that filtered down through the kids. And I was labeled as this spoiled, snobby rich kid. And all I wanted was to fit in. All I wanted was for people to know that that wasn't me. But at the same time, I completely took that on. I completely internalized these judgments that people had towards me. I was also the oldest of five kids. And so I was, daddy's pride and joy. And I used to actually go with my dad to work sometimes when he would have to do rounds at the hospital on the weekends or whatever. And I remember being really young and they dress me up and do my hair. And I remember just like hating the dresses, hating the hairdos, and just being told, and granted, as I tell these stories, please know my parents are amazing. I'm very fortunate to have two very devoted, loving parents. But the messaging towards that whole time was smile pretty, look nice, be nice, just like make people happy and make sure you don't like talk too much and make sure you're not too loud and la la la. Like all of this stuff, right? Like that so many of us receive in terms of this direction, this information, this programming in order to be safe, to be loved, to be accepted, to be a good person or a good girl. And so these early experiences very much shaped how I realized I was operating as an adult when I started to wake up and just become aware of my patterns. And very much came into the light when I became a mother. And I became a mother kind of by surprise, which had sort of happened to my mom as well. Not that she became a mother by surprise, but she had myself. She had two boys. And then she thought she was done. And when I was about 9 years old, she got surprise pregnant with twins. And I was called up into helper role. And I was delighted to do that. And you know why? Yes, I was excited about my sisters because I got sisters. Yes, I wanted to be helpful to my mom, who I could see was struggling. But I really also wanted to prove that I was not what everybody thought I was. Spoiled, entitled, spoiled little princess, I think was what I used to get called. So I really latched on to that. And I learned very quickly to give up all of my needs, so to speak. I learned that it was safer to be small and quiet and follow the crowd, obviously, at school, because I just wanted to fit in. I learned at home to just make sure that I was doing everything that I could to help and to literally just not ask for anything. And it eventually manifested into an eating disorder. Not the kind where you don't eat, but the kind where you binge and purge. And when that happened, then I had this whole new layer of shame. And it was something that I actually ended up healing myself. That's another story for another time. But the point here is that just even those few little snippets, there's so much more, but those few little snippets should give you kind of a clearer picture of where I would be very resistant to receiving and how that would translate into my adult life, especially when I became a mom and I had found myself in this like little town in southern Alberta because I had reconnected with my high school sweetheart. I'm from Prince Edward Island, Canada, and we were both from there. And we reconnected on Facebook like 12 years after we had broken up and got back together super fast. And I moved. I knew this is where I was going. I moved out to this little town in southern Alberta. And I almost immediately got pregnant. And so, yeah, so much unraveled when I became a mom. And when I found myself back in this relationship where there was actually a lot of pain and hurt because of that relationship being associated with a very painful time in high school when I was going through that eating disorder, when I was really like tangled up in all of this alcohol addiction, all of this stuff that was going on. So it took me a while to realize that this was why I was experiencing a lot of struggles in my relationship. I was having a really hard time being a parent. It felt like I was doing it all alone. I didn't know anyone. I thankfully had a neighbor that did come and like offer to help me at one point. But I didn't know why I was here. Basically, I was like, this wasn't my plan. My plan had actually been to like go. I had done my yoga teacher training. I wanted to go live in Costa Rica. I was gonna like not have kids because I felt like I had, been there, done that kind of like because I had so much responsibility at such a young age. I didn't think I was gonna get married, but here I was. My plan was completely like flipped on its head. I'd chosen somehow something completely different, and I was in it. And I started looking around and I realized as I was asking, like, why am I here? Like, how did I land here? Yes, I understand that I'm meant to be a mother. I'm going through this awakening. My husband has no idea like how to relate to what I'm going through on any level whatsoever. And I see where all this healing is meant to happen, like at this really generational level. Like I was seeing all of this, right? My intuition was activated at that point. But I started looking around and I was like, there's something about this place and how it's all about natural resources that is speaking to me. And then I learned about energy healing. And then I started to put the pieces together and recognize how we are resourced in this experience as humans the same way that we draw on those natural resources to run our world. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. So I'm getting ahead of myself. I always do this when I create slides, but yeah, like again, here we are. We'll go through the slides since I have them because they're really pretty too. But this is it, right? This is about remembering that like everything in our experience and how we resource energy to run our world, we are designed to be resourced. We are here to open to the flow of life force energy, of divine energy, aka God, creator, universal love. You put your label on it, whatever you like. You don't even have to label it. And if you don't connect to something like on a spiritual level, you can just think about it as life force, right? This is literally about your unique interpretation. And so, recording this. I hope I'm recording this. Okay, so I'm just having a moment here. I'm like, am I? I think I am. Okay, so let's talk for a minute about how we became so disconnected. I shared a little bit of my story, and in addition to just being, in kind of like a tumultuous inner world that I kind of got wrapped up in for most of my life, to be perfectly honest, and all these stories and all of these judgments and all of these projections and like all of this stuff, because in my part of my human design is actually also I live in the projection field, so people project onto me a lot, not just like necessarily negative things, but also can think that I'm the person that's here to like solve all their problems. And I really want to be here to empower you. So I'm not here to change you. I'm not here to fix you. I'm not here to solve anything for you. I, again, am just here delivering information. So how have we become so disconnected? Well, we've been conditioned, right? We've been conditioned from our away from our unique divine connection from birth, right? That's just the way it is. We have been completely severed from that from birth. We've learned to look to the world around us to tell us who to be and how to exist in order to stay safe and all of these things. This is part of what is required for us to survive as a human. So it's not wrong. And I do believe that our soul chose this, right? We chose to come into this world and have this experience and forget our true divine nature so that we could find our way back through all of these challenges that we have as humans. I believe that anyway. That's my interpretation. You're welcome to yours. But with that, we've learned to live in chronic survival mode. We know this. This is not new. It is not news. We have learned to live in chronic survival. And that has caused us to be always living from our head, always trying to plan and analyze and address everything through logic, through the lens of what we already know is safe. When what this is about that we're talking about may be different, quite likely is different from what we've been taught and what we've always known and how we've always operated. And so we want to know that our nervous system is going to register that as unsafe, and we have to be aware of that fact in order to, quote unquote, get past it, right? So we want to know that this is also just about, in general, shifting out of survival mode. Our nervous system is highly influenced by our energy body. And when we're grounded, especially, we need to be grounded. That's what a lot of us are lacking. But we are going to feel so much more safe and supported. And when we let the light in, when we let source in to support, this can help us to settle the nervous system, right? To let the nervous system know it is safe, because it's the equivalent to allowing yourself to be held by the divine mother and father as the divine child. Okay? This is also because we have a lot of unprocessed trauma, and most of us don't want to talk about that. And that's okay. But this includes ancestral trauma. We're carrying the memory of our ancestors in our cells. And we have loads of ways that we help you with shifting that and transforming that energy, because it literally is energy, right? It is repressed or suppressed emotions that live in the body. We can allow that energy to move. We can facilitate that movement. That's a huge part of the work that we do. But that experience, those experiences that translate as trauma, from little t to big T trauma, and it really, I don't want to say it doesn't matter where it is on the spectrum, but what I will say is that, I mean, obviously it does, but also, like, depending on who we are as individuals, we will all process those sorts of things in different ways, right? So someone might have a much higher tolerance for what may be considered a big T trauma versus a little T trauma. And some of us may find a lot of little T traumas in our lives that have compounded, and the story that we've created around it has compounded things. And, like, there's no judgment around whether your trauma is different than mine or whatever. We don't really need to get into that. But certainly, if you know that you have some pretty large scale traumatic things, it's advisable to consult a professional on that to support you. Even if you were to step into this work more deeply with myself, while I have a certain amount of trauma informed awareness, I am not specialized in that. So just so you know, if even as we go through this 21 days, which is going to be really chill and nothing major, but if you're finding stuff's coming up, because sometimes when we let more light in, like, that can unearth heaviness, right? Let's just make sure that we're reaching out for support appropriately, even if, and including that, meaning that to myself first, if I'm your person to reach out to first or whatever. Just saying, since we're throwing the word trauma around, just saying. Okay. We're also disconnected because we've learned to ignore our body signals. Again, living in the head, not connected to our body, when the body is actually our intuition, right? Spirit, soul, source, God, creator speaks to us through our body, through the felt sense. This is what somatics is about, is being present with the felt sense, which is also presence with, in my opinion, emotion, energy, emotion being energy in motion. Right? Again, when we suppress emotion, it becomes trapped in the body. It creates disease. It just does. So, if you're dealing with illness, you want to know that these are things that you may want to address. And in fact, trapped emotion is a huge portion of what causes illness. We are moving towards a deeper understanding of this. That's happening. So, This also has to do with our cultural conditioning and a good person or good girl programming, right? Has to do with patriarchy, devaluing intuition, devaluing rest and receiving, so that it's always about logic and the grind and go, go, go and do and be productive. None of that is conducive to slowing down to plug into your support and connect to your inner knowing. That's all noise and distraction. Yeah, there's a certain amount of it that we need to do, obviously, to function in this world. And that if we're going to create in this world, we have to do that. But again, it's like we speak to it in the beginning. I can't remember, but how we're here to balance the divine feminine and masculine energies within ourselves, with that having nothing to do with gender and everything to do with energy, right? So yeah, we need to do sometimes, but we are human beings. We need to be so much more than we are being right now. And when I say being, I just mean just being. Okay. This has to do with constant stimulation and distraction. We are super disconnected because we're so overstimulated. We're so distracted. There's so much information. There's so much noise. That's why it's even more important for us to slow down and take that time to go inward. And with that, we resist stillness. And we resist stillness because it can feel unsafe to slow down, because it can feel unsafe to feel in that stillness. And so this is also very much about, again, like learning how to teach the body that it is safe, learning how to regulate the nervous system. And all that means is learning how to be able to shift from that stress state to a rest state, the way that the nervous system is naturally designed to do. So this is largely about getting out of that chronic fight, flight, freeze, or fawn and into that rest, digest, and repair. Okay, so we're going to explore that on this journey as well. And then there's also what's coming up was this loss of ritual, this loss of making space for connection. And again, ritual doesn't need to be like elaborate or complicated. The ritual that we're going to get into is literally just the practice of plugging in. And we'll get into that shortly, and we'll be going into that more deeply in the 21 days. And then we've just been taught to fear our own power, to resist our own power, to not want to take responsibility for ourselves and outsource our power instead. It's much more easy and feels a lot safer to do that because it's what we've always done. Like there's so much. There's so much. And again, this is not to overwhelm us with there's so much, but it is to illuminate, right? We're here to become aware, to become conscious. And so my purpose is helping you to plug in to your support via this remembrance of and activating resonance with your true divine nature. Okay. And when I say activating resonance with, this is also another huge piece of what I'm here for, is I'm here to hold a frequency. I'm here to transmit the frequency of source. And so not just in my words and not just how I say this, but in the energy that I hold in a space. And that's also what this is, and the 21 days is me holding a space for your vibration to acclimate to. So I have to do my due diligence in my plugging in as well, so I can hold that frequency. And that frequency is that loving energy of source. And again, so much of this is about self-love because that is the embodiment of your true divine nature. If we really simplify it, right? Self-love, recognition of love, of yourself as love, because that's what you're made of. Okay, so here we go. We're getting into this proof of your divine design. Okay. And first of all, we're going to be talking a lot about, and you've already like heard of and have practiced likely, this idea of inviting the light, of using your intention, using your mind to imagine, like you can literally like see a visual in the sky, right? The sun, the moon, the sun is more of that masculine energy, right? That doing active energy of the sun, daytime doing, and then the moon being the more reflective energy of our intuitive self that is also more about the slowing down, the receiving. That's the feminine. creative, the intuitive. Did I say intuitive? I don't know. But we get to invite this light that we can see. And again, if you don't have like a strong connection to spirit, or you're kind of adverse for some reason to the idea of spirituality, which if you're here, you're probably not, but just in case, you're warming up to it or something, you can use these visuals, right? The cosmic forces, if you will, of light. Let those rays of light in. It gets to be that simple. But with this, we get to know that we're empowering, we're engaging the power of the mind, right? Because where we focus our attention, energy flows. That's just how it goes. So this includes what we create through what we think, feel, say, be, and do that we may or may not be aware of. And this is where that presence, that's slowing down, right? Presence is the portal to transformation. We can't change what we do not acknowledge. So wrapping back around to this proof of your divine design and how you're meant to invite the light, in addition to it being revealed to you in nature, and I'm a little all over the place with my order here, but that's okay. I actually connect to spirit most powerfully through nature. So I think a lot of us here are probably like that. And that goes back to like the most ancient of times, right? To our ancestors, to indigenous culture. Like spirit happened through connection to nature, or connection to spirit happens through connection to nature. Nature is spirit in form, in a way that we get to relate in all kinds of different ways. So anyway, I'm getting off track here. But when we're talking about like inviting the light, for example, we want to know that all spiritual interpretations have some form of that, right? The light is universal, if you will. And then nature is also showing us how we're meant to source energy. If you can hear my dog barking, but anyway, how you're meant to source energy, right? Everything that grows in nature needs to be rooted into the earth, and it needs to receive light, needs to receive nourishment from above and below in order to grow. That's it. Simple as we can get it. And then there's also, as I mentioned, and how I started seeing and like connecting the dots and receiving all of this awareness of how we source energy as humans to run our world. So, like I said, I live in Southern Alberta. I am in the heart of oil and gas country. There's also like all these solar panels going up. A lot of debate over how well the solar panels work, but whatever. And if they're actually more eco-friendly than sourcing from the earth through natural gas and oil and whatever. We're not here to debate that. We're just here to like illuminate your own interpretation of that and what this could mean. But I also live like on a canal system. I run my dog along the canal. I was looking at like massive power lines that run along a highway that I'm close to that like obviously transmit energy. And there's all kinds of like, what am I trying? Stations, like energy stations around, and oil wells and like windmills if you drive in a certain direction. Like there's all of this evidence of how we're meant to source energy from the earth, source energy from what I'll refer to as like cosmic forces, and how there has to be this like, connection, this flow in order for that energy to be transported and utilized. Okay, so all of these things are there mirroring to us this stuff. So I am going to just dig into these aspects just a tiny bit more here. I'm going to pause for a moment though, and just go see what my dog is losing it about. So I apologize for this brief pause. Just a moment. Actually, oh, I'm just going to leave it so I don't mess with it. I don't know if you could hear that or not, but she was like freaking out. I think she's good. Okay. So with that aspect of spirit, again, all spiritual interpretations and religions, systems, whatever, relate to the light as representation of the divine. And with this, we want to remember that, again, this is about universal love, compassion, connection. And a lot of us are going to be feeling a really strong pull right now to plug into that, right? Especially as the world is going like up in flames. We are here to anchor in a new paradigm, a new frequency, if you will, right? Where again, we're living more and more and more from that space of love, abundance, and connection, unity consciousness versus that fear, lack, and separation, which is how we've been programmed. Okay, this is also relating to this connection to Christ consciousness. And so, my experience growing up kind of like moved me away from religion. I was not getting like how if, for example, God's so great and people that are, go to church and doing the things are such good people, like why they would be so unkind to someone who was like a little bit different in whatever respect, especially when, the belief systems were so closely related. So I moved away from that for a long time. I really had no interest in any kind of organized religion, and I still really don't. But I do connect to Christ's energy, to that love and compassion, to that unity consciousness, to what Jesus or Yeshua represented in terms of us being our own self healers, and how we're here to like help each other and like all of the good things that he stood for. I just see that as I have a slightly different interpretation, that's more related to the more Gnostic version of gospel, where there's a lot of talk about us having our own unique connection to the divine, which is really what this is about. That doesn't mean that if you happen to relate to religion or be a devoted Christian, that doesn't apply through your own interpretation in what we're talking here, or that I think that there's anything necessarily wrong with that. This is just my experience and my interpretation that I'm speaking to. And I also see that as being as lacking for me, lacking the divine feminine aspect, which in the story of Jesus and Mary has to do with Mary Magdalene being an equal, not Mother Mary, but she's also in there too. But in terms of Mary Magdalene being an equal to Jesus, as in she had the same spiritual knowledge, and they shared knowledge with each other, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's my interpretation of that, and that's where I draw on. I use that example here. I was called to use that example here to illustrate that masculine and feminine equality energetically, and how that is meant to translate, at least through this transmission, what I'm bringing through, what I'm sharing with you, how we're invited into recognizing that this translates as that equality, that balance of masculine and feminine energy we're meant to have going on within us, within our relationships, and within the collective. We know that the masculine, the patriarchy is in like the toxic masculine has kind of been ruling things for a while, but within that has been a very wounded feminine as well, a very wounded, disempowered feminine, and that both masculine and feminine, there's healthy and there's not so healthy. So it's not judgment towards one or the other. It's just the invitation into recognizing where there's room for harmonization within yourself, relationships, and your interpretation and how you show up in life. Hopefully that makes sense. I also feel like this is just, again, we need to reiterate you finding your unique relationship and interpretation above and beyond all things. No matter what I say or anybody else says, this is about you learning how to tune in and receive that for yourself. And again, it's not that what you've been taught has been wrong necessarily, but like there is room for you to expand and explore within that as well, if you choose. Hopefully that made sense. It felt like a little bit of a babble, but that's okay. Yeah, so that is that spiritual aspect, right? So we get to connect with the light. We get to recognize also that spirituality, God, creator energy is obviously mirroring us all kinds of magic through nature. Nature is the clearest mirror of our divine design, in my personal opinion. and where I receive my connection most strongly and download what I'm here to share most readily. Like, I really fully believe that everything that we need to know about how we're here to live in harmony and heal ourselves has to do with how nature reflects that back to us and how we're meant to live plugged in, resourced by these unseen forces, right? And again, we're talking about unseen forces. There's the earth, there's those more cosmic forces, the divine. I struggle with saying that the earth is not the divine, because it is. It's created from that. So, again, we're just here to be a bridge for that. We're here to receive that, again, subtle energy into our subtle energy body, because yes, we are a physical body, but we also have an energy body. And if you're not quite up to speed on that, that's okay. You can let me know if you need more information on that. We can certainly talk about it in our 21 days together. But like, do get to know that there is a subtle energy body, a vibrational body that is unseen to the naked eye anyway, but is very much felt. That source energy is moving through, is fueling, is like, we're this electrical system, right? And an electrical system needs an energy source, and source is that source. Source is that source. Earth is part of that. So a large part of this, again, from that perspective of nature, has to do with planting yourself here. Being grounded is a must to receive and hold divine light. We can't anchor it. We can't hold it if we're not grounded. And that's where I went wrong for, I'll say wrong, but what I was missing for a really long time, I was not grounded. I was receiving like all of this information, but it wasn't embodied. I wasn't living it. I wasn't able to anchor it in, because I just lacked the safety. I lacked the nervous system capacity for it. That's why, again, we're doing these 21 days, so that we can help the nervous system settle through practice, through teaching the body that it's safe, through incrementally allowing in more and more and more light, and learning how to hold it, to hold more, to receive and hold more. Okay. So again, we've already mentioned this. This has to do with inviting the light, sun, moon, celestial forces of the heavens. Like, have fun with it, friends. It gets to be fun. This also has to do with opening our heart, opening our crown chakra. I have to think about putting on my crown, but inviting that in, right? Opening the heart invites that in, invites in the light. Gratitude for self, for our ancestry, for allowing us to be here. That is how we activate Reiki flow. If you practice Reiki or energy healing, like, gratitude in that capacity is what activates that flow in those modalities. And we want to allow that flow. We want to support it with intention, with breath, with presence. Again, once we are present with what's going on with the breath, with what's going on in our bodies, once we start to allow ourselves to tune into that felt sense, like, that is us witnessing where soul and body merge, right? And starting to live from that space. So this is really about growing and expanding and creating and resting and replenishing and receiving as well, when we're looking at nature with the cycles and seasons. And as we mentioned at the time of recording this, we are moving into winter. It is December. We are even relating back to Christ consciousness. We are in that season, right? Where it's all about the light in the dark, the light in the dark, which I love. I love that about the season. That's my favorite part, is the lights. And inviting that lightness, and going inward, right, for that rest and reflection. And so then that third piece that we talked about was the energy, was how we have an energy system through which divine energy as life force, and life force flows. So if you want to like kind of think about it in this way, you are a living power grid with that system. Source is your power source, your generator, and your energy system that is made up of those chakras and channels that are the meridian lines in that system, and your aura, which is your energy field that expands out and around you. These are the transmission system for that source energy. And your body and your life in general are the lights that turn on when energy flows freely. Hopefully that makes sense. Alrighty. So, of course, if you are having any questions about this, that's what the chat is for here, depending on where you're watching this. You can comment, you can obviously ask in the 21-day container inside Telegram, which if you're not in already, you're going to want to jump into. And what we're going to be doing inside that container is we're going to be really focusing on activating your connection and anchoring that connection, expanding your capacity for that connection, healing the nervous system, all of these things through coherence. Okay. And so, what is coherence? Let's talk about it. And as we talk about it, I am going to invite you into some breath because the very first step to being in coherence, which is you in resonance with source, with divine love, okay, is in my interpretation, well, two things. One is the breath, two, the heart. Okay, so if you can just first of all breathe like we did in the beginning, just connect with your breath. Inhales and exhales flowing in and out. You get to start to see yourself as you connect through your pillar of light connection. Okay, see yourself grounded here. See yourself with the light of source flowing down. You can use this imagery that we've got here. If you can see our slides, let that light radiate down. See yourself in nature, plugged in, roots growing deep into the earth. Oh my gosh, receiving so much nourishment. And with the breath, we start to even out the inhales and exhales. So we're going to go a lot deeper into this practice inside the 21 days. But for now, just inviting you to start to breathe in for a count that's comfortable, maybe 4, maybe 5, maybe even 6, and breathe out for that same amount. And just keep breathing in this way. Close the eyes if that's comfortable and safe for you to do so. So you can just drop inward a little bit more. And just keep breathing this way as you remember this is so simple, right? This is you connecting to source. This is you coming into coherence. This is you acclimating your vibration, attuning your vibration, like you would a radio to a particular station, to the frequency of God. I'll use that word now here. Source, God, creator, right? Let yourself just really marinate in that and how simple it is. And ask yourself, if you are not already doing this daily, what might change in your life if you took just a few minutes a day or a minute here or two throughout your day? And this is where I'm very embodied in this part. I do this every day, morning, night, throughout my day. It's changed my life. It's completely transformed my life. And this is so simple. You can do it anytime. You might not close your eyes down anytime, if you're driving or something, but, once you're practiced at being conscious with your breath, you can do it anywhere. And just a few minutes can shift, even just a few rounds of this kind of breath where you're just connecting, right? Because you are connecting to your life force consciously. You are plugging in to source consciously. You're employing the power of your mind, of your intention to activate the natural tools, the natural mechanisms that are your divine design to bring you into coherence with your divinity, with your soul, with your expression of source, God, creator. Like, are we getting this? I feel like if you're here, you probably already know this, but I'm interested to know if this is something that you're doing daily, if this is something that you could stand to incorporate more or expand your own practice around. There's so many cool things we get to do with this too that integrate the body and movement and our sound. And this is all the stuff we're getting into that 21 days. So make sure you're inside that Telegram group. If you're not already in, again, you can find the link wherever you're watching this and or reach out to me if you need help with that. Okay, so this is us aligning our breath, our mind, our body, our energy with that frequency of love. It's a big deal, but it's so easy, simple, right? And when our energy is tuned in this way, is fine-tuned in this way, our energy field itself is organized and it's clear and it's allowing that flow, right? And this is where we're going to find ourselves really locked in intuitively, where we're going to find those synchronicities happening, where life just starts to feel so much more in flow, right? Where the nervous system is like more easily shifting into safety after stress, and or we're more resilient to stress. Like things happen and it's just not such a big deal because we just feel grounded and trusting that it's all working out. What a different place to live than in an anxious or depressed or just like constantly trying to like catch up state, right? When you could just lean back and let yourself be carried a little bit more, held a little bit more. Yes, still take the action because you're receiving clear guidance around what action to take, and you're receiving support and you have awareness around where you may be in resistance around taking that action because it's probably going to be different than what you're used to, right? Because if you're receiving information now from your higher self, and I'm using a lot of words kind of interchangeably here, but soul, higher self, God self, whatever. If you're receiving that connection through your clear channel, which you are doing when you are in coherence, right? Then you're going to be receiving the guidance. And then you're going to be asked and invited to do things that are probably different outside of your comfort zone, maybe. But when you're resourced, when you're coherent in this way, you have the means to be present with what you're experiencing without judging it or pushing it away, to navigate that resistance, and to move anyway. It takes some time. Fight that sometimes, takes some time. But this is where we're getting at when we're talking about how this all relates to how so many of us are being called to do something different in our lives, right? Change is scary because our nervous system gets freaked out by change because it's not familiar. If you're here, you probably know that, right? Or if you don't, and that's news to you, or it's just maybe landing for you right now, what a thing that might be in your life. Please, no judgment, no shame. This is part of being a human. But we're here to embody more of that soul self, that higher self as a human. And when we do that, and when we move from this space, and when we show up for the mission, then we are going to just feel so much relief, honestly, because we are not holding all of that in anymore, all of that authentic expression, all of that desire to perhaps make a difference, all of that like just authenticity, like just wanting to burst out of us. Because what we're here to do is be ourselves and embody this frequency of love of our true divine nature within ourselves. And when we do that, we also start to heal, including at a physical level. Okay. So this is not about chasing a spiritual high, but it's about being present, right? It's about being connected to that higher self, to our soul. It translates as us feeling really calm and alert, open and grounded, resourced instead of scattered, and guided instead of feeling confused and uncertain. So it's helpful. It's helpful. You could use help with any of those things. You're going to want to get into this practice, especially if you're not already. And this is the state where you have access to your channel, your creativity, your inner truth, your strength. And again, of course, your divine connection. That's all coming through your divine connection. And it is really foundational for you to receive life force efficiently. It's for manifesting, for again, like healing, for intuiting guidance. Like this is required. This is key. Okay, so hopefully that's landing. How are we doing? How are we doing? Let me know. So we just have a few of these slides here. We actually created these when we very first came up with this class, and then we were like, oh, we've kind of already talked about this, but this is what we want to invite you into in terms of a visual here. If you happen to be watching this, or sorry, receiving this on the audio only version, because it may go up on our podcast, just know that you can find the link to these slides in the comments, and or you can find the video version of this as well. But to give you a visual of inviting the light and all of the ways that you can start to imagine it just showering down, spiraling down, how we are really being invited into receiving both those divine feminine and masculine aspects and activating those at a healthy level within ourselves. And so that for me anyway, there's like, I always resonate with when other people talk about it or when I do my own work, this golden light that is kind of resembling sun rays and this softer, more white light that is resembling uh, like the moon, if you will, or the Christ consciousness energy. Like there's this beautiful white light always referred to, right? When we're talking about healing light, there's all of these references that you may hear, see, or just sense yourself. You get to decide what makes sense to you. Okay. But we want to know that when we're inviting the light in, we also need somewhere for that light to go, and we need to be grounding into the earth. Okay. And this is this earth energy. We're really invited into allowing ourselves to be held by that, right? That's really feels like this beautiful opportunity as well to kind of just surrender what's ready to be composted over to the earth to facilitate and nurture the growth of what you're here to create is a beautiful way to look at it. So we want to connect to that loving support of the earth as well as inviting the light. And we want to be opening our hearts to receive. And so there's lots of reasons that we are not particularly open in the heart space because we've learned that we have to protect, right? So this journey is also going to be about opening up your heart and in particular learning how to love yourself exactly as you are right now, so much more, and just letting that recognition of your true divine nature to facilitate and fuel this process of deeper alignment and connection with that version of you, the embodiment of that version of you in this human experience. So, a while ago, I got really with this whole like transmission and idea of like how we're designed to be receiving in this way, really activated around the word flow. And you'll see the word flow in a lot of our language, in a lot, or the language that we use in the things that we talk about in general, because it is really about opening up to receive that flow of divine energy, of life force, right? That's pretty clear at this point. But I was given this acronym, and it's free, love, open, wide to receive. And it's the reminder that the frequency of love is your natural state, that it is free. It doesn't cost a freaking thing. No one can charge you for that. And that love is your natural state, and that you are designed to be open to receive it. And that your heart in itself, your energy field, is meant to be, yes, open, wide, and receptive to all of that, but in particular to receiving the wisdom within. I think my original slide actually had like the other words in here. I don't know where those went. Because this, as it evolved, was like, oh yeah, the F can be also frequency, and we're opening wide to the wisdom and whatever. And I'm not even like giving you this acronym so that you're like, here, I'm going to take this acronym and I'm going to keep it forever. And I'm giving it to you so that you can interpret it in whatever way you like. But to know that you're open, you're designed to be open to this free flow, right? Your energy isn't meant to be open wide in the capacity, in the way that it is like leaky and you're giving it to everyone all of the time, but in a way that you're open to life. And you're open again to that wisdom within. You're receiving that wisdom. Okay, so if this resonates with you, take it and run with it. But know that you are designed for flow, right? You are designed for flow. We've been talking about it. I think you get it. And this is what we're here to embody through Source, the 21-day journey. Obviously, the intention is not to stop after 21 days, but the 21 days is to help you form the habit of plugging in. And so if you've not already gone ahead and joined the Telegram group, again, go ahead and do that. Wherever you're watching this, you should be able to find the link to do that. And if you are struggling with that link, reach out to me personally. Let me know. I will help you. This space is going to be really simple, fun, and not somewhere where you have to come and spend a whole bunch of time in order to receive the benefit. It's about you being supported and inspired in your own practice. We'll be sharing extra little tidbits in terms of channeled messages and whatever's wanting to come through to support us through this, but it is going to be predominantly about a support and accountability space for you in your practice. So in that space, you're also going to find the like 3 to 5 minute practice that we're inviting you into, that we're going to be progressing over the 21 days. And you're invited to interpret that, to modify that, to incorporate that in any way, shape, or form that feels good to you. But the point is to do it. And if you miss a day, that's okay. You just come back to it the next, right? A lot of people, not a lot, had a handful of people that had, again, like I said in the beginning, I think, said they were too busy to do this. Love the idea of it, but too busy. Again, this is the point, right? If we are busy, if we are giving, if we are going all of the time, we are going to burn out. We know this. We know that when we ignore our body's cues and we don't take the time to be present with ourselves and to take care of ourselves, it always catches up with us. And what I want to help us with is having that not happen so much, but also like becoming so much more connected to our inner world and our ability to just fundamentally know what is right and true for us as individuals, and to be connected to our bodies and its natural wisdom and intelligence, and to learn how to really activate and maximize that. This is really what we're getting into in this space. So if you've been listening to this and if you have vibed with us, if you are feeling that connection, and you've probably let your coherent breath go because I just kept talking. I get in the flow and I just go. But I would invite you back to that right now with me. If you've still got a beat, you still got a minute to be here with me, to place a hand on your heart if that feels okay, hand on your belly or anywhere else on your body that feels good, to come back to your beautiful breath, to come into the heart, into the body, to feel your breath as source moving through you, recognizing your natural affinity, your natural design to be resourced by it. Remember, you wouldn't be alive without it. To know that you get to expand your capacity to receive and hold this energy through the breath, through presence, through allowing whatever is here right now in terms of your experience, through sensation, through awareness of your body, through anything at all rising into that awareness, your thoughts, just knowing that all of this is part of who you are and all parts of you are accepted. The dark and the light are all part of the whole. And just allow yourself to receive that truth in whatever capacity filters through for you now. Just allow yourself to feel the warmth of your hands on your body, to feel the movement of your body with the breath, to feel the vibration in your body beneath your hands, your beautiful healing hands. To remember that through your pillar of light that I invite you to anchor into even more strongly, even more deeply now. Maybe allowing the body to start to rock or sway a little bit, just letting it know as you deepen the breath, if it feels good to do so, that it is safe to receive. It is safe to allow all of this support, all of this beautiful love, all of this light, all of this grounding energy, to allow it in as you breathe it and just focus your awareness on your connection to it. And to let it be what it is, your natural state, is infinitely resourced, unconditionally loved, born worthy, and so powerful and capable of creating any change, creating anything in this life that you desire when you allow yourself to plug in to receive. Just breathing that in, imagining you could anchor all this beautiful energy down into your roots, really plant it here through your body into the earth, into this earth plane. Allow it to be easy, simple, natural, to let that energy flow through. Feel yourself free to receive this frequency of love, opening your heart wide, receiving the wisdom within, just letting yourself and your cells know that you are home, you are whole and holy and perfect, exactly where you're meant to be right now. Thank you so much for being here with me. I cannot wait to hang out with you inside the Telegram group. Go ahead and pop yourself in there if you're not already. You'll also find this replay inside as well, or you may be watching this somewhere else. Again, the Telegram link will be with that. Go ahead and look for it or reach out to me if you need it. Just feeling your energy all coming back to your center now, seeing yourself so firmly in your pillar of light, or however you want to interpret that, plugged in, above and below, letting it flow. Much love. We'll talk to you soon.